right, everyone, Richard Carlton here. Hi, everyone, Richard Carlton here. I am here with Heidi Porter today. Welcome, Heidi.
Hello.
We are here at fmtrain.tv. Today is a special day, mostly because we were trying to get this done, and I kept telling Chris and Heidi that you guys have a ton of content, and they're like, no, we don't. And I'm like, yes, you do. No, you don't. Yes, we do. So Friday, what happens is
exactly how it went.
It's exactly how it went. And they go, and so Friday, they get done on Friday, and they're like, oh, by the way, I have this whole other thing I haven't shown. And it like blew up and exploded, and people were leaving, and so we decided to bring her back and let her show this because I think it has high value. It's really kind of an interesting kind of end of conversation in terms of the ransomware. And so we want to kind of bring everyone up to speed on where we're at with that. As a reminder, let me move that over here, that there is will not be a broadcast tomorrow through the end of the week, right? We are going to be taking some time off, Turkey Day, getting stuff set. Additionally, we have to kind of prepare for 19.4. We'll be covering that on this coming Monday, a week from today, and then we'll be back in on all sorts of things through the end of the year. It will be outside the hours of, it'll be a live event, it'll be recorded, but it'll be January 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, that Monday through that Friday. Okay, so just as a warning for all of you, we are not like totally surprised by this, right? Cool. So with today, what we want to do is we want to kind of go back to the conversation from last week. So we should probably recap a little bit on how we got to where we are. And so day one was kind of an overall kind of summary of what's going on and what ransomware is, some basic steps maybe you can take on that. Then day two, as I remember it, basically turned into the Whim to Court day. And he basically, because he took a ransomware simulator my ass. It was real ransomware program. He turned that son of a loose on a FileMaker server, and it destroyed the server. The short version is encrypted everything he wanted to encrypt. It put a nasty note up there saying, pay me 1,000 Bitcoins or I will never unlock your stuff. And I was fairly traumatized by that event. And then of course, then we never got to the end of the conversation because Heidi has come up with a thoughtful process to help hide things, right? So before we get into that, do we want to cover the highlights of Monday and Tuesday, Heidi?
Yeah, let me just share my screen here then, the correct screen. So the highlights of Monday and Tuesday.
Yes.
So I guess I was going to start, Thursday and Friday it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking my day is day one, day two.
Yeah.
My brain
So Wim did the demo, scare. We scare at the beginning. We scare at the beginning again. We kind of scare. And then we just looked real quickly at this framework of, what you want to do is you want to identify what you need to protect. And, one of the reasons is, ransomware is going in there. It's figuring out what it wants to attack. It's doing that reconnaissance that Wim talked about. And so it's looking for things, right? And so we talked a little bit about protecting, and know your normal so you can detect if there's, something going on that's not normal, if a bad actor is in there boring around and doing reconnaissance and everything. So what do you think happens if the ransomware agent can't find your FileMaker server? That was kind of the question we had gotten to. We had looked at, okay, we could try to do things like not let the ransomware agent, write to the database or backup directory when they're encrypting, or we could try to stop security changes on those directories. And we haven't gotten to looking at that yet. And then the third thing we talked about was I had created a little PowerShell script that would just say, hey, something new got created in here that wasn't one of my backups. Or wasn't one of my designated database files, and we'll send 3 emails out. But there are ransomware agents that operate at the kernel level, and so none of that's going to work, these sophisticated bad guys. And so Chris came up with this idea of, well, a rootkit is something that the bad people use to hide that they're in your system, right? They go in there and it's an executable called makechaos.exe, and they use a rootkit to hide that. So you don't see that it's on your system. And so he was like, well, we could fight fire with fire, right? We could use a rootkit to basically put an invisibility cloak on the FileMaker server directory and the backup directory, right?
The basic attack vector of a FileMaker attack onto your server, and once again, ransomware is going to target email, your computer, a lot of stuff, but because of who we are and what we're doing, we're talking primarily about your FileMaker server, right?
Yeah.
So the attack basically is two pieces. It's somehow a file has to get on that server that will be executed. And so the first thing is the idea of a deflector shield to keep things off the computer. Okay. And so the bad guys are always trying to figure out how to get their little file on there. Kind of think of it like a virus from old school days. I was a kid in college. We would trap viruses on floppy disks and swap them just to collect them. We thought it was cool. So you have this malicious code that is trying to get put on the FileMaker server. Once it gets on the FileMaker server, it starts to recon what it's doing, and it talks to headquarters, right? And so the other idea is that the defense idea. The two ideas I've had so far were keep the file off the machine and get kind of really draconian about that. The second thing was block the communication between this agent, this virus, and whoever's controlling it, right? And Heidi and Chris had this third idea, which is what we're talking about, which is this rootkit. So the idea that if this is the good stuff right here. So this is your FileMaker file. This is Clarice. Whenever we have licensing problems or questions, we don't understand what Clarice is doing. We ask her, and then she gives us answers, right? So it's very important. So this is for the moment. We're going to have a different model here. This is your FileMaker file. It's on the FileMaker server. It's really obvious I'm holding a big pink puppet in my hand, and if you're in here, you're a bad guy, you can see this. But what if your FileMaker file was on your server, and suddenly you put a blankie over it so you couldn't see it?
And your backups, and your container fields.
Yeah. So you can't see it. So the file is, still on the server, but it's invisible to everyone. That's kind of the idea of what we're trying to do. So the FMP12 files are still on the server. They're still running. You can access them with Pro, but nothing else can see them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You know they're there. Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the comment, "Hello, Clarice," right? Is that Hannibal? Do I have that correct? The names of the yes, hello, Clarice. Right, we're there. Yes, I can. So, I can't talk like him. That's great. So, Heidi, why don't you walk us through what you're doing here?
All right. So this is basically the documentation on isn't it a cute little icon on R77. So there's a lot of documentation here, but basically this is only supported on Windows, which is, a lot of what is attacked by ransomware. And basically you're gonna, and I'll show this in the demo, you're going to, sorry, I'm paging here. You can set up some configuration to hide, you can hide files, you can hide directories, you can hide registry keys, you can hide PIDs, and then you inject this into a process, the R77. I'm just going to show this demo with FileMaker Server. And so you're basically hiding these things. They're still there, and anybody who knows they're there can access them. So that means FileMaker Server knows where it is and can still access it, can still create backups in backups directory, but you have used this rootkit to hide them from other processes. And specifically, we want to hide them from the agents who are in there doing reconnaissance and want to see what files you have or what processes you have running. So I'm just going to talk through this kind of instead of walking through it. So I have the FileMaker server off right now, and I'm just showing you that this is my R77 config. I've set it up to hide the FileMaker server directory. You can hide the backups directory. You can hide your image directories. And then I'm going to inject this R77 into Explorer. So if I go over to Explorer, there's my FileMaker server. You don't see the directory anymore in Explorer. And if I detach it, there it appears again. So it's kind of like a Cheshire cat kind of thing, is the word Chris uses when I showed it to him. Is it basically just hides it. But better, let me show you better, because this is probably what the ransomware agent used, is I can do the same thing with dir. So on Windows, they're probably going to use the dir command. And so you can see FileMaker Server's there. And then I'm going to inject this rootkit that hides that directory. And now you can't see the FileMaker Server directory. So, you know, just so you see there's no tricks here or anything, and that FileMaker Server can access this, I start with the FileMaker Server, and it's going to take a second to host, but I'm going to just connect to it. And so even though that's hidden from the bad actors, I can still connect to it and do what I need to do. So let me just pause there for a second.
No, that's good stuff. So, I mean, I think that this is not approved behavior from Claris, although, you know, I think if you do it and it works, it's fine, right? I guess, Heidi, I mean, what would you say?
Means a lot coming from you, Richard. Means a ton.
What's not
approved by Claris?
Well, no, it's yeah, I mean, well, it's like you do this and then your server crashes and it said, well, maybe you hid too much or you did too much. I mean, you've obviously played with this and it's working right here. I don't know how far you could take it before you know, the average person who has, say, half of Heidi's skill set or half of my skill set hits a wall and runs into a problem, right? I mean, that's the question, right? So, because you could hide your backups. If you hide the backups, do the backups still work, Heidi? Do you know if you hide the backups?
Yeah, because the server can still see them. And so it, you know, the FileMaker Server still knows where, you know, it has this configuration that knows where the backups are. Okay. And so it's still going to be able to see it.
So you hit it from, I'm going to draw on your screen here if I can.
I hit it from two.
From DIR, I guess, is that so that you can't use
from DIR.
The directory listing command.
Yeah.
And also from Explorer. Are there other directory listing thingies that you'd want to shield it from? I mean, this is way over my pay grade. I don't have a clue how you pulled this off. Yeah. So.
Is there anything else in Windows? I don't use Windows a ton that you would want to hide it from other than DIR and Explorer. I think in the doc, where did that doc go? Somewhere down here.
Oh, the root 77.
They mentioned what it had been tested on. So it's been tested on, did that make you dizzy yet? Tested on dir, netstat, so Process Explorer. You can also hide Process Windows Test Manager.
Yeah, but I mean, if you encrypted the process that was running, say you did that, you just crashed FileMaker Server. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't give a because we can build a new server. It's the files that we're trying to protect, right? So yeah.
And so so that slide that I showed where we talked about the PowerShell script and checking on, you know, not letting someone write. This is all to see, could we get a tool that could really protect, you know, and this would be on-premise servers, right? Or maybe even hosting companies that would really protect what's our responsibility, which is the FileMaker Server and the backups. You know, they usually go into the backups first, but they do the reconnaissance, so they might, you know, you hide it, they might never see it. Right. But, you know, I do hear what you're saying about, you know, what if this tool messed up the server? And, you know, the caveat I should have said at the beginning was, you know, we tested this with this test console they showed here, and I can bring up the environment instead of the recording.
No, that's fine. But it seems to work, which is fine. But your mileage may vary, right? Is what they say. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. The one other thing I wanted to show just at the end here, real quick, is that you can also. This is with this R77 test console that just allows you to test this out, right? You can also hide processes here. And you can do this, you can persist it by hiding them via prefix like FMS or in the configuration, but that's just another thing you can do if you think, you know, a ransomware is going to come in and say, hey, what processes do they have running that you know, might be important to their business enough to pay ransom. Right?
Yeah. I have a question. So when you hide and lock this stuff out, it's not just temporary in RAM, but if you restart the machine, those changes persist, I assume?
Yeah, I haven't gotten into persisting it, but it's all here in the doc
Okay.
of how you're going to set it up with elevated privileges and again, we haven't gotten that far, but
Okay.
I haven't gotten that far. So I was just going to show, so this is the, rootkit source code and files. And so you basically, you can change this prefix. Like I had changed it to file. So it just kind of hid file, but I wanted to show it you can configure some things in the regedit in Windows, and then you can configure just hide by all the prefix here in these two files. And one of the things that I also wanted to test was, we might want to hide the R77. So by just leaving this part, the compiled part, to hide by prefix, and then doing the configuration in the regedit, maybe we hide, the R77 from them, the bad people seeing, hey, they're using R77, they might be hiding them, because sometimes you don't want to mess with the bad people, right? And then the other thing is, I realized today is, I want to make sure that the command line still worked, FMS admin, if I hid some of these processes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I did try that out, and it worked fine.
Okay, so you can still restart the web server and Apache and all the other stupid stuff that
breaks. Still do all that
breaks.
from the command line, even after hiding these. So, like if I hide, I guess I don't. Do I have the server started up right now? No, not in my environment. But yeah. So
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
The short version of the conversation is that prevent the file, an agent or some alien file from getting on the FileMaker server, step 1. Step 2, block communication between the server and anything that you don't want to allow. So you need to be able to remote onto the server somehow and interact with that. The way we do that at RCC is we restrict by IP address. You can't get to it unless you're on a specific IP. Which narrows down the range of what it can do. You would also potentially want to stop all communication on all ports outside of, say, 5003 out to the internet, maybe 443 for SSL. In fact, didn't they change, Heidi? Didn't they change that recently? I don't have my server guy here. Their traffic
19.4. I think that's one of the 19.4 changes.
Yeah, didn't they change it so but it's 5003 still. But
I'm waiting for your show to find out how it's changed. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's what they're doing, but yeah, somehow there was they were using some more standard ports there. Anyway, and I know there's at least one fix, and I have not read that document yet that you folks or WIM or someone dredged up about the vulnerability that was in previous versions of FileMaker Server. So those of you who missed that, I'm evaluating that. I will kind of, it's one of those things that someone says, hey, there's a vulnerability, right, on your FileMaker server. But you got to do this right away or you're going to burn to the ground, right? And you start reading it. It says, only if your FileMaker server is configured with 3 workers, 5 SSL certificates, and then it's spread across 5 time zones, this might be an issue, right? So I have to read that to see if, for that upcoming, for a week from today, whether that's how big of a vulnerability that really is. But there was some sort of security fix that was put into 19.4. So once again, upgrading FileMaker Server would be a more straightforward process if we trusted Claris not to light the damn thing on fire, but they do typically issue updates. I would say every other update requires a fire engine and water to put the fire out after you install it. So
I did have a summary though of the ransomware.
Okay, you have a summary for that one?
I wanted to remind that you were talking about what you can do to prevent it. Mm-hmm. Remind people that number 1, infiltration of ransomware is phishing attacks. Number 2 is patch, not having upgraded or patched some vulnerability somewhere in your infrastructure, right? And number 3 is RDP and weak passwords. Those are the 3. Yeah.
Patches, phishing, and so run your patches. Yep. Bad passwords 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, got it.
Yep.
And then phishing, passwords, and patches.
Yep.
Phishing,
Yeah.
passwords, and patches. I got to write that now. Where's my ink pen?
Phishing, patches, and passwords.
You got to say that really fast 5 times.
Phishing,
Yeah, you can't do it either.
Patching, password. I can't do it.
And then I'm afraid I'll say a really bad word if I get to that. So phishing, which is PH, phishing.
Yeah, so that was the rest of our slides here real quick while you're writing and trying to talk is, you know, that people are attacking Mac OS and Linux more. Phishing training is important. Ransomware is something you can use on Mac OS. And then good logging practices. If you watched our DEF CON recap, we talked about seams and making sure you log everything and increase your log sizes. So if something does happen, you can look up, you know, have what you need, not have what you need. And then some other good ideas, and here's some example seams. You know, Zabbix, Splunk. If you have a hybrid strategy with no jump points, and then I'm just flying through these for time, we have a bunch of resources here. And one of the things we never got to, but we talked about in DevOps and SecOps, is having a plan for when something happens. It's really important. And then a bunch of resources. So these were just slides we had, and
can people get the slide deck, or they just?
Yeah, we need to post this somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, I can. We can get it posted for you.
Yeah, there was talk of. Oh, and then Chris added this last slide about how they're going after the rebel people who attacked Colonial, and he says this is encouraging, and I say no, it's not encouraging because. You know, it's just like, you know, unless you have enough resources to enforce things, and how many people think they have enough resources to enforce, you know, if a small hospital gets hit or a small business gets hit? They don't. And so it's encouraging that they're going after, you know, some people who have hit big companies, but, you know, I just don't think the enforcers have the resources that the bad guys do. So, I told Chris this made things less scary, and that I didn't think it was encouraging.
All right, so Labo 404 has a question for you. How secure is Docker versus other container systems? I'm not a Docker person, so I don't know. I can't answer that question.
So it's interesting, when we were at DEF CON, the biggest, and this might not really be an answer, but the biggest, there's always a session every year that everybody talks about, and this year it was about hacking a Docker container on a mainframe, on an IBM mainframe. I think they used to be called VTAM. It's a ZOS OS mainframe. They hacked a Docker container, and so, you know, I realized, I don't know, mainframes are what our banks use, but you know, maybe you would think that's not the most secure place for a Docker container, but you know, it can happen.
Yeah, so the answer, I don't even know I've never containerized anything. I know I've talked to people with containerized stuff. It's not in my wheelhouse skill set. My wheelhouse is other things. So it's a Labo 404, good question. We don't have an answer for that. Kyle?
I would say, yeah, they can hack. You know, how secure, it's all relative, right? Because, you know, this is just you know, we're looking at ways we can just protect those. Protect what we need to protect.
Protect the ones we love.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Everyone else, say thank you to our guest speaker. We appreciate it. It's good stuff. If you folks have questions at all, ideas, or topics for live streams, please reach out to support at rcconsulting.com. It'll go to the coaching crew, which will also see it. Hey, you say live stream idea or for Richard or something like that, and they'll set it aside, and that way it comes to me. They don't try to triage it themselves. All right, cool. Well, that's it for today, everyone. We greatly appreciate the hard work. R77 is how to cloak a cloaking device. We should call it R77, the cloaking device. It cloaks your directories. All right? See ya.
See ya.
got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.